Hey everyone, welcome to Nerding.io. I'm JD, and today we're going to be learning about WebML, or you can think of it as AI in the browser. What's meant by that is you can actually use different machine learning practices and run them in the web, like in the browser without any backend. And so I'm really excited to look at this library called transformers.js. And what this means is that they're trying to use Hugging Face's Transformers Python library, but use it in JavaScript specifically. And the cool thing right out of the bat, it tells you that there's no need for a server. You can do transformers directly in your browser. So you can do things like natural language processing, computer vision, audio, and even multimodal. So things like zero-shot image classification. And the main piece of this is that transformers.js can use the Onyx runtime to load the models or run them directly in the browser. And they even have a way to convert your pre-trained PyTorch, TensorFlow, or JAX models into Onyx. So this is extremely awesome. And you can see over here that they have examples for vanilla.js, React, and Next. We're going to be doing a lot more with Next, so we can just kind of look at this really awesome tutorial. And what you'll see is that they're just typing in an input field and actually having a positivity or a sentiment analysis while they're typing. So it's actually doing the analysis on every single keystroke. This is incredibly powerful. The other thing is that you can even look at things like a browser extension or Electron. So with the browser extension, they don't actually have a full tutorial, but a few months ago, we actually built an open source example of a Chrome extension. So we're going to take a look at that. So here we built this Chrome extension called Questionable. And it's a way to search your web pages with questions. And we did this as a course. So if you're interested in the full course, I'll leave a link in the description. But you can also just check it out. So we're going to take a look at what this means. It basically allows you to search the information that you're viewing and ask questions in a Chrome extension. So if we go over to our ever efficient AI website and we just do this question bubble, we also have a hotkey, and we can type in, can you build Chrome extensions? It's going to take a minute. What it's doing is actually pulling all this information from the page and chunking it, and then doing this analysis in the background of the Chrome extension. Again, this is all written in React. There's no back end at all. It's just using web workers. So, and now it's highlighted and found and scrolled to where we can show the browser extension capability. You can also do some web accessibility. So you're looking at like just being able to tab and go through things, hit enter and scroll. What's interesting about this though is that with a Chrome extension, every single time it's loading, you would think it's loading the model. And what's cool, and we'll go through this, is that because of the way Transformers.js works, you only have to load the model once. So even though we're opening and closing this Chrome extension, that Chrome extension has only had to load the model a single time. So let's look at some of the usage and how this actually works. So we saw a Chrome extension example. Well, what's going on behind the scenes? The first is you have these things called pre-trained or tasks that are associated with how you're going to build out your pipeline. So sentiment analysis is one of them. We're setting what we want our pipeline to be as a task. Then we can say, okay, this classifier, we want to say we love transformers. So it's giving our sentiment analysis of positive and giving us a score. You can also pass in arrays, which is pretty awesome. And this is where it gets really interesting. You can actually define your model right here. So if we look back to how this is working in Python, it's pretty much exactly the same. We'll see that we have the Python import, we have our pipeline sentiment analysis, we have our pipe, as well as here. Really the only difference is we're in JavaScript we're using await, and then we can define our different models. So you can see here there's a ton of different predefined tasks and models that we can use. They have things for vision, they have things for audio, tabs, so like tabular data is coming, and then they have multimodals. So this, you can actually do a question and answer on an image, which is pretty awesome. And then they have these presets. So if we look at the pipeline API, what we saw is not only are we defining our models, but we can actually send this information to Hugging Face. So what this means is the options that you have available for loading can either be on the Hugging Face hub or locally on your system. When I say your system, I mean in your browser. So again, these are the different, you have a pipeline, and then you have your model, and then you have different parameters that you can put with your task. So the cool thing again is that we can actually define pre-trained models. So we're just going to look at like how relatively easy this is. You just have to configure in your JavaScript the local path for your model. You want to turn off the remote model, so we just set it to false. And then we're defining where our WASM files are. So WASM is WebAssembly, and that allows the Onyx files to actually be pulled into the browser. If you want to convert, there's a conversion script. So if you want to convert your model, you need to define what the path ID is. You need to make sure that you have a PyTorch, TensorFlow, or JAX models. So you would need all of your Python libraries set up locally. And then with a single command, you can actually convert these particular models to run locally. What it's going to do is give you an output in this particular model path. And so that will allow you then to load in this Onyx model and use the models in your pipeline, just as we saw right here. So this is our task again, and then here is our model. So this is where it could be defined as a local model. All right, so one of the things that I really liked about Zenova's collection, Transformer JS, is they have a collection, and it has a bunch of different examples, from audio to images, as well as a chat. And so what we're going to do today is kind of look at a hello world example, which is kind of like the React translator, and then a little bit more complex, which is the blind chat. Definitely recommend taking a look at some of these if you know audio or images pique your interest. It's definitely some cool stuff here. So if we take a look at the React translator, what this is going to show us is a couple different things. It's going to show us different parameters that we can set. It's going to show us how we can actually interface with this model live just on the browser. But the really important thing I want you to see is when we start to do this translation, it's actually going to load in the model. And so you can see it's relatively quick. That can vary obviously based on speeds, and you see this only runs once. And so what it's doing is it's actually somewhat caching it. And what you can do is, if you need to, refresh it to get rid of the cache. Now it's actually streaming the information back to us. And now if we go in and change this to say, I don't know, cat, we can translate it, and we don't have that load time again because it's already loaded in the model. Now that's stored in the browser, essentially. Now we can actually just switch. Let's say I want to do German, and we're seeing it stream instantly. We can also do, I don't know, like Spanish, and you'll see that you can quickly switch between without any load time. So now that this is loaded the model and it's running it through WASM, it's pretty fast, like faster than actually hitting an API and returning it. You would, if you think about it, every time that you would click translate, technically you would be going out to like something like OpenAI's API and waiting whatever time that was for it to go out, process, and come back. Whereas here you have that one heavy initial load, but then everything else after that is incredibly fast. So the next example that we're going to look at is this blind chat. And the reason that I kind of like this one is you can actually change the model in which you're doing things. So if we'll just say, who is Ada Lovelace? Again, it's loading in the model because it's relevant to this tab and to this page altogether, right? And so while this one takes a little bit longer, which is fine, so I'm going to pause. And then we have the Ada Lovelace was a British mathematician. So cool. Now let's actually try and get some code out of this, which would be a totally different model. If we do a new chat, we're going to go over here to where it says current model. You can see that some others are coming soon. And you can notice that we have essentially the chat model, but then we also have the ability to do a code gen example. So what we're going to do is select this. You can also see that you have a system prompt, so you can think of that as like a role or defining the part of the object in the parameters that allows you to define what the system actually is supposed to be. So here we'll just say software engineer as an example. And we'll apply this. You can see that it's changed. And now what we're going to do is we're going to try and get some code completion. So we'll just do hello world, and we'll just say we're defining name, and we'll see what's coming up. So right now it's again loading the new model, which would only happen once, and we'll see what our output is. Cool. And so what it's doing now is it's actually taking what we put in, it's defining what it thinks it should be as a defined function, and then it's actually giving us an example of the function itself. We can also copy this. So let's go over what we learned again today. Basically, we learned that we know we can run natural language processing, computer vision, audio, multimodals, and actually convert a model into an Onyx runtime and use similar code in JavaScript in the browser. That's the key part, is in the browser this is running. So it's actually loading the model into our web browser interface. So again, I think this is going to be really awesome and really huge in JavaScript. We'll continue with some more examples in later videos. If you have any suggestions for us, please let us know. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And happy nerding!